Wondering if I can take the mast down backwards or will it hit the shed? Preparing to lower the mast. This time I just lashed the gooseneck of the boom to the anchor bollard. The jib halyard comes down through the boom crane, through a block, and then tied on to the bow bridle. Now I can release the forestay and then lower the halyard, lower the mast using by easing it back through the halyard winch. Basic raise came up in just 2.5 minutes, not including setting the crane up, but I bet I can set up gear to make that faster. Using the block and tackle instead of the winch made the first part really easy. People that have sailed with me know how much that I hate engines. The main reason being that I've never ever owned a reliable boat engine, and you'll just spend more time working on the engine than actually it propelling you, and B, I reckon if you just wait for the wind, you'll spend less time waiting than you will working on the engine. However, this engine had been in storage for 20 years, but only had one owner. I spent 20 hours working on it. It looks like it's pretty good. It does start real easy and runs nice and smooth. I changed the oil, the thermostat, made sure the cooling worked, cleaned out all the rat poop. The reason that I'm not, the one thing, I would totally sell this boat without an engine. The one thing being, well, two things. I'm not actually, I have this engine, and I'm not actually very experienced sailing catamarans yet, so I don't really know what it's going to be like. So I might as well have it, since I have it. And B, getting over the Carthia bar. I'm not very experienced with bar crossings either. And sailing over, then you're very dependent on the wind direction, and if it's a beam reach, great. If it's across, if it's a favourable wind direction, I would probably, following the reading Adrian Hayter, I would cross the bar with the sails up, and maybe the engine idling, ready to go, because the engine could suddenly fail, but the sails aren't going to suddenly fail. But we'll have to do some sailing around the harbour first to get some experience and build some trust in the engine. yeah, I've also got an engine, I've got an hours meter to attach to it, so I want to see um, if I can spend more time at propelling me than I did working on it. That's 20 hours, so that's actually quite a bit of motoring. This is approximately how the steering will work. I've seen a bit of variation in how people have their Pahi 31 set up for steering. The plans actually did it differently to this, where the tiller extension just comes back to a wire that's tight between the rudder stocks. But the photos of how this boat was previously had the extension coming all the way back to the beam. Now that would have given you a less like a more sensitive tiller that had more weight to it. I have no idea what it's going to feel like to steer it, but it's going to need to be something like this to clear the outboard if I'm sailing it with it tilted up, which I think is the right thing to do. With the current bracket design, with the motor in this position, the propeller will be just above the water with it raised. Definitely too close to the water, like waves will hit it. But because there's space and I'm worried that the tiller's going to hit it, considering cutting this down by 13 centimeters. It gets quite a bit higher. So I notice if the outboard bracket was lowered by if we cut this down 15 and then lower it 15, then the tiller will actually clear the outboard, even pushing it all the way along. Because I don't know how hard you might suddenly need to turn, but I've got to assume that sometimes you've got to turn it like hard. It's going to be easy to lower the bracket, but if I cut it down, I can only cut it down once, so I should just strengthen it and then leave it as is. I can't really decide it's a good design or not until I've launched the boat, so maybe I should just leave it as basic as possible. The jib sheets come to a track here on the second to last crossbeam, and I wanted to check if this hatch could open and clear them. In the plan it says these hatches are meant to be on sliders, so you can lift it like that and then slide forwards, but I kind of want to use that space for a solar panel. But it looks like there's enough